Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to, I think it's week 4, session 7 of Sparking Innovation. We are so happy today to welcome Kraken with us, and we're extending an extra special welcome today to students and educators across the province, grades 7 to 12. We're so excited today to have Jacqueline Lee of PolyUnity with us and techNL. We're going to be highlighting the diversity in tech careers across Newfoundland and Labrador, and how important diversity is in your education when it comes to considering careers and backgrounds in STEM. So I'm going to pass it over to Jacqueline, who will introduce our guest this morning from Kraken.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Katrina. This is so much fun, and I want to welcome everybody here today. This is, as Katrina said, we've done 6 of these already and 6 more to go. I was in week 1, and it was so much fun to talk about with Rachel, my counterpart, all the amazing work we do and how much fun we have at work. We've had Verafin present, Smart Ice, MISA, Carnegie Learning, and we've got 6 more amazing presentations starting in a few minutes for you. I just want to take a second and talk about why we're doing this. We wanted to reach students and teachers all across the province, every single classroom, and reach kids aged from grade 7 to 12. As you're thinking about what you want to do when you graduate high school and beyond, there's so many amazing companies that exist and opportunities that exist right here in Newfoundland. And we wanted to show you some of the people that are working in these industries. We've got speakers in tech from all kinds of different roles, from software engineering to computer science to design to business and marketing. There is space for everyone. So just showing what you can do with your passions, that's what this series is all about. All of these speakers, I think, love what they do, and they're eager to answer your questions, whether it's in this session or beyond. We have a Google form that is on the website as well, and Katrina can share the link as well. So shoot your questions over, whether in the session or afterwards. We'd be happy to answer them. All right, I'm going to kick it off to Kraken Robotics. We have Stephanie Walsh and Karen Wakem here to talk about a day in the life of and what they do at work. Off to you.
See, thanks, Jacqueline. So yeah, as Jacqueline mentioned, we're here to represent Kraken Robotics. We've both been here for a little bit of time, and we're pretty excited to share what we do and how we got here, I guess. So I will start sharing. Yeah, my name is Steph Walsh. I am from St. John's, currently living in Paradise. I am a software developer. I've been at Kraken for about 2.5 years. This is my 3rd career since I've graduated high school. I used to be a mechanical engineer, and then I was working in the marketing industry for a little bit, and then lived in Calgary while I was working in both of those industries. And then luckily, doing software, I started working at Kraken, and it helped me move back home to Newfoundland to be with my family, which is awesome. One thing I loved about high school was that it allowed me to try a whole bunch of different things. So I played all of the sports, I did all of the activities, I tried a whole bunch of different classes, and it brought me into engineering when I finished school.
So my name's Karen Wakem. I'm also from St. John's. I work as a project manager at Kraken Robotics. So I'm an electrical engineer by education, and I worked as an electrical engineer in England for 5 years after graduating university. And I've worked at Kraken now for 2 years, and I've just recently gotten the title of project manager. So that was kind of just the way my career path went. In high school, I just absolutely loved learning everything about math and physics and taking kind of all the advanced courses. Not that you need to, but that was kind of my favorite part, having the opportunity to expand my knowledge and kind of learn everything technical. And yeah, so this is my second job in my career, but they've both been electrical engineering, where my first one was doing building design. So quite a switch up.
Yeah, so as we said, we work for Kraken Robotics. We are a seabed imaging mapping company. We also do subseabed imaging with the acquiring of another company. We sell both products, so our catfish system, and services, which are surveys, the acoustic core, etc. We'll show a few pictures, videos of those later. We have over 200 employees around the world. So our main office is here in Newfoundland. We have employees in Nova Scotia, Ontario, Germany, Brazil, the UK, Denmark, I think. There could be another one.
Yeah, we have a couple people in Denmark.
Yeah. We work with navies around the world, offshore oil and gas companies, underwater exploration, offshore wind energy companies around the world. And we are really global. Like, some of our employees were just in Australia, a lot go to Denmark. I know Karen's been there, Poland, etc., Canada, like everywhere. It's awesome. We have a whole bunch of different roles that you can get into. We have software developers, we have mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, we have people who work in our production teams, so they're the ones that put together the catfish. We have geoscientists who work both onshore and offshore. We have offshore technicians, so the people who are on the boats running the different systems that we have. We have project managers like Karen, both for our full projects, and then we do have specific project managers for our software teams. And then we also have like technical writers, HR, marketing, etc. Like literally almost anything you want to do, you could probably do at Kraken, which is pretty cool. In Newfoundland itself, we have around 110 employees, and 38 of those are females. So we're getting closer to gender equity, but we're working on it. So for me, I am a software developer on the UI team. So what that means is that I work with all of our UI software, so anything that you can see. So user interface is what UI stands for. I also work with our user. I'm learning a little about user experience, so making our software the most usable for all of our employees and then our customers. So I do a little bit of coding. I do a little bit of design. I talk to a whole bunch of people almost every day. So a daily for me, every morning we have what we call a stand-up. So for 15 minutes, I meet with my UI team. We talk about what we did yesterday, what we plan on doing today, talk about any questions that we might have related to the tasks that we're currently working on. And then more than likely, I will do some coding on the tasks that I have, and then we do code review. So code review is looking at another developer's code, going through, making sure that it makes sense, that it's doing what it should be doing, giving feedback on the different syntax that it might have, and then just discussing what they've done to make sure that it's complete and it's completing the task that we put forward. So it's basically just a second set of eyes on what someone wrote. To work as a software developer, you need good problem-solving skills. You need to be able to communicate well. Some people think that developers just kind of work in their basement. That's not true. I talk to people all day, every day. And then you need to be very organized to make sure that you get your tasks done in what we call sprints. So we work in 2-week sprints. So we're given so many tasks for that sprint, and we have to get it done. So we need to make sure that we are organized to make sure that that works and we meet our deadlines. To get here, I did a master's in software engineering. You don't have to. I know that a lot of the colleges in town right now are offering different software development courses. You can also teach yourself using Udemy courses, or there's lots of other different things on YouTube and all these other different ways. So you don't need a degree, but you can get one if that's the way that you want to go. Like I said, originally I did mechanical engineering in school. So that was my undergrad. I did 6 years at MUN. Worked as a mechanical engineer, didn't love it, honestly. I shifted and worked at a marketing company. And then from there, I taught myself how to code, and then I went in and did my master's. So there's just to let you know that you don't have to do what you choose when you graduate from high school. It's great if you do, but you do always have the option to branch out and do something different.
Like I said, my current role now and kind of what I've been working towards since I started at Kraken and at the end of my last job is project managing. So I take our major system, which is essentially a towed vehicle that we drag behind us on a boat, and I make sure that we can deliver that whole system to the client. So my biggest kind of daily tasks are organizing production, making sure clients and end users are happy because some of our end users aren't actually our direct clients. There's kind of like a step in between, and then I'm making sure that communication is happening really well between all teams. So like Steph said, she's on the software team, but when we deliver a project with, like, say, the Navy that I'm working with, we have so many different people involved. We have electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, procurement, documentation, software, production. We actually have production across multiple provinces, sometimes multiple countries. So it's making sure that everybody is tied together and everybody knows the deadlines, what's important, what the priorities are, and then mostly making sure that the end user is super happy with the product, because that's what's important kind of for me, is making sure things are delivered on time and it works properly. So to do this role, I need to have really good people skills. One of my kind of jokes that I always make is that my job is to annoy people in the right way. So I very much have to make sure that people can respond to me, that I'm personable, and people don't find me too threatening or overwhelming, but just enough that they'll do what I ask them to. I have to have a high communication skills, particularly different types of communication. So where we do have a lot of people who work remotely, work in different offices, speak other languages, I need to make sure that I have all of that tied together and I'm communicating with people enough and in the appropriate manner. I need to have some technical knowledge. Like I said, I do have an electrical engineering background, not so much in robotics. So I need to have some kind of technical basis, and I want to be able to understand enough to explain to the other parties involved, but I don't need super in-depth technical knowledge. I just need to know who can answer certain questions. I need to have high organization. Organization is such a important skill to develop. I definitely didn't have it in high school at all. It's something I've developed throughout my career, so it's never too late. But it just helps make your job run smoother. And obviously, public speaking. If I'm dealing with clients and end users, I need to be good with talking in front of crowds, talking to different levels of people, which again is a skill that not everyone has, but it can be developed with the right tools and the right mentoring. I personally have a university degree, so I went to MUN and completed my electrical engineering, but not all PMs need that. We have quite a few PMs that don't have a university degree and have different backgrounds, different career paths. Again, part of working in the tech industry, which is really good, is it's forward thinking, and it doesn't go back to that whole, if you don't have a university degree, you can't do anything. It's definitely not like that in the tech industry, and it's all about your background and the skills you have. I've always had an interest in academic studies and the latest technologies. I definitely kind of pursued that within my electrical engineering degree. I specialized in some networking things. Then I went to building design and designed the electrical systems of buildings, like the lighting. I worked a lot with railways over in the UK, and I kind of wanted to move home. And then I saw Kraken Robotics was hiring, and just to go on a slight tangent, I hope that's okay. But actually, the funniest story about this is because I didn't have robotics experience, I almost didn't apply. So I filled out this whole application, and then I decided not to apply because I thought I wasn't qualified. And then the posting was still up a week later, and I actually messaged someone on LinkedIn that worked with Kraken. And I told him, look, I'm super excited. I love this company. It looks cool. I have these skills. I'm willing to work on my technical knowledge, and within a week, I was hired. So just a little tidbit there to, even if you don't think you're qualified, you probably are, or maybe they don't know what they're looking for, and you could actually fill a role that they're not aware they need. But yeah, so that's me. Sorry.
No, I like you said that because I looked at the Kraken roles when I was finishing school, my master's, and I agree. Like, I was like, I don't have any of these skills, and I applied, and they were like, hey, yeah, come work for us. So yeah, fully agree on that one.
It's 100% about what you can bring to a company, more so than just your education and your technical background.
Yeah, you can learn anything. You can't teach. You can teach someone anything as long as you're the right person. So I think
Yes.
that's important. So one of my favorite projects that I've worked on at Kraken, I worked on the design and implementation of our new launch and recovery system from CatView. So CatView is our software that controls our catfish. So when it's in the water, or even before the water, I guess, we check all the sensors. You can check all the data that's coming through to make sure everything is good and working properly before we put it in the water and deploy it to start surveying. So for this new launch and recovery system, what we wanted was the ability for our end user to launch the catfish without having to be physically present. So for me, it's been like over a year working on this project, which has been really interesting because, when you're in school, at least when you're doing engineering, you have 4-month work terms. So 4 months of time and then you're done. So for me to work on something for over a year, it's actually really interesting to see how things have progressed. But to get here, so I used a program called Figma. So this is used to design, used by designers to create different screenshots, different ways that we want to implement this new window. I used C# and XAML as my programming languages to implement that design that I created. For this project, I needed to communicate with our field team, so the people who would actually be using this window to control the catfish. I worked on it with our project team, so people like Karen, to make sure that we were implementing the right things into this window. I worked with other software developers because I work on the UI team, but we do have people on our vehicle team who do the back end side of things to actually make things work on the catfish. Definitely not my forte, so I'm glad that I have other people to help. And then worked with other people on our UI team to make sure that the design worked for our users. As I said, it's been happening for over a year. So the first implementation of this window was pretty basic, just so that they could get it onto the system, start using it, gathering the different settings that we needed, testing with our clients, and then testing on our own systems to make sure that it works. It's actually still in design right now, so it works, but we want to make it better, which is basically my job, be able to make things as easy for users as possible. So hopefully next month, actually, I'll get to go to Dartmouth and get to see it in action on our boat. And then hopefully from that, be able to implement my own thoughts into the design, which I think is pretty cool.
So my kind of big passion project is what I was essentially brought on to work with. So I work with a couple of European navies with a full catfish and ALARS package. So what that is, it's the Kraken active tow fish and automatic launch and recovery system. So that is essentially, like I mentioned earlier, the way we scan the seabed is we tow a vehicle behind us, and obviously we need to be able to get that vehicle in and out of the water. So that is that whole system. It gets installed as a package on typically naval ships, but obviously it's not limited to that. So I had a huge learning curve when I started here. I had to learn the specific projects. I had to learn how Kraken operates, how everybody interacts, how all the teams kind of go together. But it was incredible for me to watch. Like Steph mentioned earlier, I've been to Denmark, I think 4 times now, and I'm heading again in June. I get to go out on the ship. I get to watch it be released into the water, and I get to see all the data come in, and I get to see how the end users use it, and I get to see the bottom of the sea, which is pretty incredible and never gets old. So to get here and to kind of work on this project, I needed client and end user interactions and internal organization. So I kind of, like I said before, I'm that liaison. So I kind of talk to the end users and I talk to our developers and I make sure that there's good communication and understanding between everyone and that everyone's happy at all times. So it's still ongoing. It was one of Kraken's first major deliverables. It kind of seeing the whole company ramp up, and we're kind of working on selling more and more of these systems because they're big and interesting, and that's kind of my favorite thing to work on. So some people like working on a lot of small projects. I quite like having big projects where I get to know the clients really well, the end users really well, and the team really well. So it's been a huge learning curve for both me and the company, but it's been incredible, and I'm very happy with it.
Thanks, Karen. So I do have a small video that I want to show. That's just random pictures. But so since Karen and I both talked about the catfish and talked about the ALAR systems that we have, this is a video that Kraken has on their YouTube. They have a whole bunch of other ones that you can check out too. But it shows the catfish, it shows the ALARs. So I thought it was a pretty good one to show to everyone. I don't think there's any actual sound, so you're just watching it go.
I can talk through it a bit. So that there is the actual catfish. So that is the vehicle that is
Catfish 180, which is our MinSAS system that has 3 different image arrays. This is our winch. So this connects to the catfish, which then so when it's being towed, this is what it's connected to. And then this itself is our ALAR system that Karen and I both talked about. Yeah, and then Karen, you can probably talk more about what's actually on the system since you've seen it, if you want to.
Yeah, no, of course. So these are cameras because one of the criteria we had to do was to be able to launch this remotely and not have to have somebody on deck controlling it. So this is kind of just going through how they have high resolution cameras. This all feeds back to the main computer system. So depending on which vessel you're on, that changes. So yeah, this is just how the fish gets launched into the water. That's called a docking head. So that's the whole thing that kind of holds the fish in place. And it's quite a procedure because you want to make sure that you release it in the right manner, that nothing gets damaged, and you recover it in the right way. So this whole system is to just make sure that we can scan the seabed, and it's all just a vessel to make sure that that's able to do its job. So the fish is also capable of kind of controlling itself to a point underwater. So it doesn't have thrusters. It can't move itself, but it can adjust its pitch, roll, and yaw, make sure it's staying nice and steady.
I'm just going to pause here for a sec. So this is our Octo software. So this is our object classification. Oh my God, what's the T? Anyways, it is so once we get the images from the seabed, we can import it into this software that we use to look at all the different images, and then navies would use it to find mines. We do mine hunting. So here is actually a whole bunch of, I believe this is the Volvos in Nova Scotia. So a boat tipped over in the Dartmouth or the Halifax Harbor, and these are all a bunch of cars that fell off the boat back in, I don't know, many years ago. So we actually do a lot of our testing in the Halifax Harbor so that they can, so that we test all of our different software. Then we do surveys and we take images of the Halifax Harbor. So we have a lot of data of that harbor. But yeah, so here users can make contacts is what we call them. So they click on an image and then we have a report on them. So you can just play through a little bit more.
Do you mind if I just cut in for a quick second? So essentially, a lot of the stuff that we do is mine hunting. And this is where the contacts come into play, because you want to be able to click on something that looks like a mine, and then you can go back and you can explore it a bit further later. So this is kind of our main concept that we're trying to help figure out, is find mines underwater.
Yeah, so the people who use Octo know, like, they have different criteria of what they would consider a mine or not. So this would help them create contacts and then be like, oh, does this look like a mine? Yes or no. So instead of sending people diving, they can actually take a look at it first to see if it is something they should dive on, because obviously that's not the safest thing for people to do and all that. So we hopefully help people not have to go underwater as much as they used to. So that's probably as much as this video will show, but you're obviously allowed to go to YouTube yourself, take a look at Kraken. There's a whole bunch of different videos there. We have a whole bunch of stuff on our site as well. So this lists all our different products or services, the different careers that we have if you want to take a look and see what we're currently hiring for, which obviously isn't helpful for you now, but could be helpful for you in the future. But yeah, I'll go back to your presentation and this one for here.
So I can talk on this one. So diversity in tech. So I actually, within Kraken, we have what's called the DEW committee, which is DEW, Diversity, Equality, and Wellness. So we essentially have a committee that's wants to make sure that we're making sure everybody is feeling well, included, and nobody's really feeling like they're discriminated against. It's such a huge importance. I mean, in every aspect of the world, but particularly in tech, it's like I mentioned before, it's not always about your opportunities that you've had in life, because not everybody has the same equal opportunities. It's more about what you can bring to the table, and having a wide range of backgrounds allows you to see things in different manners. It stops you from getting such a focused view on everything. And also, not everybody has had the same opportunity to shine. So by allowing various backgrounds and various people into the industry, we're also giving them that opportunity that they might not have had, and they might outshine a lot of other people who just didn't know that they had that potential. And it also provides younger generations with encouragement when we can see people like us in the industry, however you identify, however your background is. It allows you to see that you can do it, and you can kind of move forward, and that it's not just one type of person that can do everything. Everybody has backgrounds. Everybody has something to bring to the table. It doesn't matter who you are. You'll always have something to bring. And yeah, making sure that we have that diversity in tech allows us to bring things to the edge and challenge things and move forward with technology. So I am very passionate about it, and I think that we always need to make sure that we have a multitude of people available to bring what they can to the table.
Love that. I fully agree with everything you said. I love Karen's do moments. She sends something out every second Monday of something to make you better, basically, which is great. So for me, diversity in tech, tech is the growing industry in Newfoundland. So when I was going through school, when I was growing up, it was oil and gas. Everything was oil and gas. But I'm glad that it's changing. Like, yes, we still need oil and gas, but I'm glad that it's changing. We're getting a second industry. I think it's really important for our province to grow in different ways, because we are in the middle of the ocean, and we need to be able to keep people here. I think that everyone brings something unique to the table, like Karen said. Everyone has different backgrounds, and everyone can use those to their careers and to their benefits. I also love the tech industry because it brings flexibility that I think allows everyone to have a good work-life balance. So, for example, my sister-in-law is getting into the tech industry. She's a mechanical engineer. She's teaching herself how to code, and she's a mom. So it's going to allow her to be able to, drop her kid off at daycare and then be able to pick up her daughter from daycare, but then also, work as a career and something that she's really enjoys and something that she can do, which isn't something that's always been the case. Like, I know when my mom, for example, was going through school, her options were pretty limited. She was a nurse or a teacher or whatever, but now, like, she didn't even have physics in school. Like, she wasn't allowed to do physics. She went to an all-girls high school. So I think it's really important that we can see ourselves in different industries, and that it's allowing people to stay home in Newfoundland and do different things. So some of the skills and resources. So for global competencies for a software developer, you need to be able to collaborate with others. You need to have creativity, come up with different solutions. As a UI developer, you have to make things look nice. You have to be able to communicate with different people, both your team and outside sources. And you really have to have critical thinking. So you have to think in different ways. You have to think of all the different ways that you can implement something and how it'll affect the products that you work on. As I mentioned earlier, I have a university degree, but you don't have to take that route to get to where you are. You can do a diploma, you can learn on your own. There's lots of different resources. I know locally we do have STEM for Girls. We have MATE ROV, which a lot of our employees have worked with. So this is a junior high and high school competition for underwater robotics. I know once you get into university, there's also Eastern Edge, which a lot of our employees have worked with. So also robotics. And then I learned a lot of coding actually from Udemy. So it's an online course website that is pretty cheap. I think it's like $20 per course if you get a good discount. So something else you can look into to see if it's something you want to do outside of the courses that you do in school. So for us, our prompt that we want to give you guys to think about, especially where we work in underwater things, what are some of the challenges that can be seen with working with underwater electronics versus electronics that you use every day? And then why is exploring the ocean important to the future, both globally and to you? You're young, you're going to start your careers, and the world will change a lot. I mean, it's changed a lot since I graduated high school, so I'm sure it'll change a lot when you guys do too. And yeah, so that's everything that we have for you today. Both Karen and I's emails are there if you ever want to talk to us. We are open. We're always willing to talk to people about our careers and about Kraken because it's cool. It's a great company. Love working here.
Thanks so much, guys.
It's a very good company.
I have some questions.
Sure.
If you guys have got some extra time, this is fascinating stuff. Can you see sea life? Can you see sea life from your cameras, or just like fixed structures? Like, do you pick up cool things from your cameras that you're not intending to pick up?
So I can grab that one if you want.
Yeah.
It depends on the system we're using. The one that we've been talking about, the catfish, you don't really see specifics. You can see schools of fish. They tend to show up as like this like little mass blur, and you can know that it's them because you see all these like essentially tiny fish. But also we're using quite a large range, and it depends on the kind of physical properties. But then I do know like our sea vision, for instance, I believe I've seen some images from that where you can see crabs and stuff sitting on underwater structures. So it very much depends on the system you're using, but definitely can see some sea life.
Awesome. Okay. What other kinds of things does Kraken sell besides the two projects that you guys showed?
Yeah, so I'm going to bring up I'm not sharing my screen anymore. So they have, last 2 years ago. They acquired Pangeo. So they do a lot of the sub-seabed imaging. So they have an acoustic core, and it kind of, they sell the, I guess, surveys. So people go out and gather that information. I know that we also have catfish surveys and catfish services. So people can hire Kraken and our catfish, and we will run the survey and get the data for them. We also sell our SAS system, so our synthetic aperture sonar, and they can buy those and put them on their own AVs. So they're autonomous underwater vehicles. So then we have different software related to that. And then, yeah, we do sell like our software as a bundle with the catfish system and stuff like that. So there's so much more that I don't know about because I don't work on it. But yeah, so I think everything's on the site if you want to check it out.
Fascinating stuff. Stephanie, maybe you said you had 3 careers before you wanted to go into software development. Maybe just speak to the importance of transferable skills, and that they're not all lost. Like, I'm sure you learned a pile of things with your mechanical engineering background and your marketing background that you use today, for example.
Yeah. So my master's was actually developed by the University of Calgary for engineers who didn't have a software background. So it was so that, because they were like, as an engineer, you have specific skills. You know, you have your problem solving skills, your critical thinking, your organization, communication, all that you've learned in your degree and then in the work that you've done afterwards. So I took all of those into my master's, and then they just taught me the software fundamentals. So like different languages and different how to use them and all of that. Looked into, like, when I did programming in my mechanical degree, I hated it. Like, I didn't want to do it. I was like, this is like, they do at my time, they taught you C++, which is actually a really hard language to learn. And I think mine has changed it now, so you don't do C++. So it doesn't scare people away as much as it used to. But yeah, when I was working in my mechanical degree, I had to talk to a lot of clients. I had to do a lot of orders and purchasing and stuff like that. So I had to keep all of my, like, that was a big organization communication job for me. And then when I went to marketing, I worked in analytics. So I did a lot of data analytics. I had to use a different side of my brain because I had to come up with ads. Like, I was like, I don't know what this is. Like, it's like, how do I sell things? Like, I don't know. But they loved, like, my mech degree actually got me my marketing job because they were like, oh, like, you know how to solve things, and we're just solving data. Like, it's different. And then same thing, I talked to a lot of clients. I learned how to take information, like technical information, and change it so that it was more absorbable by someone who didn't really understand. So that was actually a really interesting problem for me because I've never had to really do that before, because I only really talked to other engineers, or so talking to people who were like, you know, I know furnaces, like, sell my furnace, like, what's marketing? Like, that's kind of where I went with that. And then, yeah, so that's where I taught myself how to code. And so I think everything, like, all the soft skills are transferable. Like, that's one thing that I love about the world, I guess, is that, you know, those are the things you can't, like, you can learn them, but once you know them, you can use them in any industry. Like Karen said, she didn't really have, you know, robotics experience, but her, you know, her electrical experience and all that kind of transferred into working at Kraken. And she quickly learned the robotics side of the electrical, but she already had her problem solving, her organization, that kind of stuff. So I think that's the biggest takeaway that I took, like, is that, you know, like I said, 3 careers, I'm in my mid-30s, so everything can change.
That's a huge lesson. I think people often think they're starting over, or they've lost time. And instead, I think they just have superpowers. And sometimes they're not very good at communicating those superpowers, but they have them. And I loved your story, Karen, earlier about not applying for the roles because you didn't think you applied. And in hindsight, how silly that was. So I think that's a powerful story. And yeah, I'm
So
gonna.
it is. And
Yeah.
well, my I'm not in the department anymore, but the man who hired me, we always use it as like a little anecdote because it's just so funny because he always says like he's so complimentary. He is so glad that he hired me. And then the fact that a week before he hired me, I was exiting out an application that was one step away from being submitted because I thought I wasn't good enough. And now here I am, a project manager at the company. And it just goes to show that it's not always about your technical background. So that was a big lesson for me, and I like to share it.
Well, this is wonderful. Katrina, I don't know if you have any questions, but this was fascinating. Thank you both so much.
Yes, thanks, Karen and Stephanie and Jacqueline. You asked one of the questions that was really resonating with me was the fact that you do transfer your skills and to be so young and to already have, 3 really successful careers. I think that's probably, a very powerful message to send to our young people is that we do have many skills that are easily transferable and that we should never be taking jobs that we aren't really passionate about because there's so much opportunity. So I do want to thank you all and thank you for really highlighting the diversity in skills because that brings all the value and all the strength to these companies and for highlighting that there are different pathways to a tech career. So it's not just university. You don't have to go to university. You can learn these skills on your own. You can attend a college. I think that's really important messaging as well. And those references that came through from both Stephanie and Karen about being curious, collaborating, thinking critically, having a growth mindset, having a continuous learning, and all of that huge problem solving, huge diversity of the soft skills. So everyone, as you reflect on what you heard today and those 2 prompts that were shared by Stephanie and Karen, maybe you're going to have additional questions. And Stephanie and Karen can answer those for you. You just have to complete the Google form, the Q&A Google form that will be shared with you. You can get those questions answered directly by our presenters today. This recording will also be uploaded to the website for anyone who's not able to join us live today. And go check out the YouTube videos and the YouTube channel for Kraken today. I think there's a lot of really exciting and interesting things there for everyone. So thanks so much. Anybody have any last comments before we conclude? Nope. Okay.
It's great to see the sun out again.
It is. It is. Excellent. Okay, thank you, everyone. Have an awesome day.
Cheers.
You
Thank
too.
you.